Hello folks, good to see you all. We'll just leave it a moment or two to see if anybody else is joining us. We're, I think, relatively small in number tonight. So unlike maybe some of the other sessions, if you've attended any of these where you've been asked to mute your mic and so forth at the start, we want to make this a little bit more relaxed and a little bit more interactive. I have a particular reason why that will be the case, which I will reveal to you in a moment. We'll just wait until we've got most people in with that. So I've got the chat going. Feel free to say hello. Be great to hear also just a wee bit of a sense from you of how much you have used GIS before. If any of you have used it much within your classes, feel free to drop a wee message in, just to let us know that you're all there. Here's somebody else. Hey Kat, thanks for saying hi. Patricia, complete beginner, thank you for your honesty. Well, by the end, you'll only be a marginal beginner, hopefully. Okay, Fiona, not much GIS experience, grateful, anything you can share. Good stuff. Well, we're all here to learn together, which is great. This session, just again, while more people are coming here, comes HASFA. This session is a little bit more of a practical session. I'll explain a wee bit in a moment about exactly what we're planning to do. But you will get a chance to have a little bit of a dabble here. A GIS degree, but never used it in the classroom. It's interesting. Look, Amy Brownlee. Now this, I don't know, does this make you feel old or feel proud? Amy, Head of Geography Department, Amy Brownlee, who is a former pupil of mine. Hello, Amy. Do you want to make me feel really old and tell me when it was that you actually left Lurgan College?
I left in 2003.
2003. Just seems like yesterday. So never used it in the
Absolutely.
class. Okay. So good for you for coming back and hearing from your old geography teacher again.
That's it. You have to learn from the best. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, top of the class as ever.
Oh dear.
You know, I am that easy. If you want to kind of flatter me or butter me up like that, I really am that easy. Okay, right, folks, that's 5 past, so I'll try and keep an eye on if anybody else comes in and we'll let them in. But a massive welcome to you here tonight to this. This is the final of 4 sessions I've been doing over the last couple of days, and a complete all-day SLT meeting yesterday when we're trying to get to grips with all those wonderful detailed instructions that the Minister of Education is giving us about returning to schools. So I'm quite relaxed and chilled that we've finally got to the end of this. Anyway, it's a nice little practical session, but there's another particular reason why I'm relaxed and chilled. Although this is Zoom and I normally like to have a little bit of a photograph as a Zoom background, I don't need to tonight because I'm in a very special location. Now I will explain to you in a moment what it is that I'm doing here, because I have a surprise special guest who will be joining us very, very soon. And that will reveal why I'm here. If I squint every once in a while, I am getting attacked by midges because we are outside. But all will be revealed in a moment. But I'm also joined by a guest who's not a surprise guest, but also a very, very special guest. BC mild thing on the screen there, Brendan, who is from Surrey, but currently in Cambridge, I believe.
That's right.
That's right. So Brendan is going to help me out a little bit and show me some of the things that have been going on. He has been my go-to guru over the last 18 months or so, as I've been learning how to use our GIS and having a little bit of fun with that. So he's going to be helping me out a little bit and sharing some of the things that we're doing as well. Now, ideally, what you need to have in front of you here, I'm presuming most of you on computers or tablets, but preferably a computer, because you're going to get a chance to do a little bit of practical work with this. I should also say that where I am at the moment, there are no tables or chairs. I'm sitting like a little gnome, cross-legged on the ground. And Amy, even when you left school, I don't think I was young enough to do that. I'm certainly not young enough to do that right now. So if I get a little bit uncomfortable at some stage, that'll be why. So what we're going to do, because this is a practical session, we're going to just jump in immediately with a little something for you to do. And that is If you go and have a look in the chat, I've put a link in there. It's a shortened URL, arcgis.is/1tubex40. Now, if you go on there, what it's going to do is introduce you right at the start to practical use of a data collection tool that sits with Survey, or with ArcGIS, called Survey 123. We've used it as part of our own data collection. And basically what it does is, if you've ever used something like Google Forms, this will be very, very familiar to you. It's very similar to format, but it geotags the location. So what this is going to do is give us a little bit of a feel for where we all are. Most of you, I imagine, are from Northern Ireland, but I do know that we have some special guests joining us all the way from England. So we'll get a bit of a sense about where everybody is. Now, the questions, the first one is the map. So what you'll need to do is to tap your approximate location on this. Now, obviously, you want just to give an approximate location because you don't want to be giving away too much secrets of where you actually are. So just give a rough approximate location.
I don't know where we are.
Sorry, Hafsa?
Sorry, where's the link that you were talking about just now?
So it's in the chat. So it's the very first message in the chat.
I don't seem to have it. I don't know, because I joined at 1 minute past 8, so I don't know if maybe it hasn't come up for me.
Okay, let me show you it this
Sorry.
way. Oh, no worries, no worries. So there's the link there. So you can get that link one of two ways. You can just type in, oh, no, don't want to do that. You can either just type that in, or you can do this on your phone. The Survey 123 works quite nicely on your phone. If you just take your phone out and put your camera towards the QR reader, and it'll take you in, say your location on the map, and then just a few simple questions. Especially those of you joining us from England, I do believe that you've been having a little bit of a heat wave. Now we've been reaching...
I'm absolutely boiling.
Boiling, right. Well, Hafsa, it's been a boiling 23 degrees centigrade here today.
Lucky you.
So this is our first opportunity for us to see all across the UK, wherever we're coming from, what the weather is like with you. So just give you a few moments to go through and to fill that in. Okay, now what you will see with this, folks, is that information is just popping up as you fill that in. Hopefully you've had a chance to fill that in at the moment, and it gives you a bit, I'm going to have to move around, it's very uncomfortable here. Gives you a bit of a sense of what this is looking like as this data comes in. But you can see what happens with this data is that it is geotagged. Now, let's go on to look at just a little bit of the information that you can do with Survey 123, and we can see just how quickly you can collect this information in. Now, whenever we do a reverse survey with our GCSE students for their fieldwork, fieldwork paper, we use Survey 123 to collect the data, and you see that you've already immediately got the data that you've been collecting available for them to begin to analyse, and it's just in there. A whole bunch of people not living in Northern Ireland. That's good. It's great to have you across with us. And there's the data collected for us now. But because this data is available to us, I can add that data onto a map. And in a moment, I'm going to hand over to Brendan. He's going to show you some things. But while he is on, I'm going to put this onto the map and show you how quickly we can get this data and take this a little bit further. Okay, now, today is mostly a practical session. I'm going to say one or two things, though, about some of the background knowledge for this. But if you've been in any of my sessions before, you've heard of this. We don't use GIS technology for the sake of using technology. We use it because it helps us to do geography better. Now, if you want to hear me explain why I think it helps us to do geography better, I'll share with you some of the videos that I've recorded in that before. I'll take you through how this helps us to see things in the world and to see patterns and to manage massive big data sets that would otherwise be very difficult for us to manage. Now, you're going to get a little bit of a practical experience of that tonight and seeing how we go about doing that. So up until this point, I've basically been talking about with your GIS use to know your pedagogical intent, to know why it is that you're doing what you're doing. The goal is not just the technology itself. The goal is the pedagogy. It's to do the geography better. And I've been doing in the sessions up until this point a little bit of an overview for folks about what the GIS map can reasonably be expected to help you with in terms of that pedagogy. You're going to pick up both of those tonight, but you're going to pick them up through the know-how, because we're going to take you through some of the procedural knowledges that will be helpful for you, and we're going to give you a chance to dabble a little bit with them. So what we're going to start off with is some of what I would call these threshold concepts for using GIS. These are the key things that you need to know how to use in order to feel confident. I do understand that when you're introducing new technology into the classroom, sometimes it's a little bit unnerving to use something with the pupils that you don't feel completely in command and control of. My attitude is just to weigh on in and wing it and hope for the best, and it generally works out. But I do understand that for some people that maybe you'll feel more confident if you know the ways that you're going to go about using this technology. And my pupils tend to pick it up, not because I teach it to them explicitly, but they pick it up by doing it. These threshold concepts are embedded through some of the exercises that we do. But Brendan and I, when we were planning tonight, thought that it might be useful for you just to get a little bit of a list of, right, well, here's your checklist of things that as you're using the GIS, if you feel confident that you can do these things, then hopefully you'll feel confident to be able to use this within the classroom. And this is a list of what I think some of the key concepts are. And what I'm going to do now is hand over to Brendan. He's going to take over the screen. I'll stop sharing now, and he's going to just take you through one or two little illustrations and examples of these concepts. Over to you, Brendan.
Many thanks, Alistair. Really good to be with everybody this evening from Cambridge. I'm actually courtesy of my niece's flat, because the place where I was staying had terrible internet. So it's really good to be here. And it meant on the way in, I actually drove past the very first school where I ever taught my very first lesson, Comberton Village College, many years ago. So it was a little trip down memory lane. Great to see you all. I'm going to try and share my screen. It's saying host disabled participant screen share at the moment, Alistair, so I might need to...
Yeah, I will do that now. Yeah, that should be you now, Brendan.
Brilliant. Okay, so... right, so can you see that now? It should be an ArcGIS online map.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
okay, so I'm just going to take you through, as Alice said, the kind of the fundamental ways of using this facility, which is a great resource. It's available free to everybody, all the schools throughout Europe actually, and it's pretty much what industry is using in a lot of cases. So the first thing you see when you open up is what looks like quite a pale map, not a very exciting map, and they've done that on purpose because the idea is you're going to put layers of data onto that. So I'll do that in a moment. You've got a panel here on the left called details, and this kind of tells you what to do, but invariably when students first log on, this is a bit confusing to them. What they really need to do is go to content. So I'm going to click on that one now, and this will be largely empty until you've put some layers on the map, and I'll show you that in a moment. Okay, the base map panel is always very exciting for people because you can change this rather insipid base map here. Very good base map, but it's a bit pale. You can change it to other things. So you can see here, for example, imagery with labels, and this is very similar to Google Earth, and you can go around the world. What I like about these maps is you can look at the world from different perspectives. You've got the Americentric, Eurocentric, Sinocentric, Pacificentric perspective. You can move the world around like that, which is quite a useful thing to be able to do with all these base maps. If you don't want the labels, which some people don't want sometimes, you can just click to imagery and it takes away all the labels. That's potentially quite useful if you're looking you know, at perhaps different ecosystems, climate zones, etc. And there are other base maps there. OpenStreetMap is very good. I'll use that later for rivers. Surprisingly good on rivers and streets and things like that. This is a very good layer to use if you're doing anything to do with the NEA or field work. It's got lots of detail on it. From just zooming down there randomly to the streets of Newry there, and you can see lots and lots of detail. The river's nice and clear. You've got various facilities there. So there's a range of base maps. You can explore those. The search facility here is find, address or place. It's very, very good. it's a little bit on the gazetteer that sits behind this is a bit Amerocentric. I'll just show you an example. I live near to an area of outstanding natural beauty called Surrey Hills. So if I type that in here and then I look for it, you can see it's coming up with all the Surrey Hills in the world, pretty much, apart from the one near me. That's not actually it either. So when you do these searches, you have to be aware of the fact that the British Commonwealth has spread its fingers all over the world and put these place names all over the place. So just make sure you perhaps tell students to put something like UK at the end of it, and it's more likely to find the right place. Even then, it's found somewhere in Alabama. So you can see that. A more familiar place might be, let's find London. But then there are plenty of Londons in the world. You could have gone to London, Ontario. And it'll go there as instantly as that. By the way, London, Ontario does have a River Thames running through it. I don't know if you've ever been there, had a look around that. You can see there's the River Thames, London, Ontario. So we've got the base maps, we've got the search facility. The next little exciting thing you've got there is the measurement icon. I'll just zoom out so you can see the big picture. I'll put the base map for imagery with labels back on here. So we've got the measurement facility here, and there are three options. One is to measure the area of things. So for example, if I click that, I can then go and draw a shape, and if I double click at the end, it will tell me how much area I've got there in square kilometers, or I can change that unit to square feet or whatever. Okay, so that's that one. The next thing I can do is I can use distance, and I'm going to come back to that in a minute. Again, the default is kilometers. And the third thing, and to be honest, it's the thing I use an awful lot, is to find the latitude and longitude of things. This is exploring the latitude and longitude of any place in the world. And watch what happens as I move the cursor around the map. You can see these numbers here will start to appear. Can you see the numbers appearing? So, interesting, if I just go that side of the Greenwich Meridian, I've got positive longitude numbers here. If I go to the eastern side, western side, sorry, they become negative. And they are decimal degrees. Very important to get the minus in the right place for that. Otherwise, you end up in the wrong hemisphere. If you go further south, you'll see the same thing happen with the latitude. I'm going to go over the equator here. Notice the latitude's decreasing. It's positive because I'm in the northern hemisphere. I cross over into the southern hemisphere and increasing numbers there of latitude. So these numbers are really important. So if you found a particular place of interest, so I'm just going to go to one now. I'm going to go to JFK in New York. I've put a little thing called a map note here. So if I zoom to that and I want to know its latitude and longitude, I can literally just go like that, click that, and you can see there's the latitude and longitude just there. And if you want to copy those, which you sometimes do, they are copyable if you want to paste those into a spreadsheet such as a CSV file. Very useful data there. I said I would do the distance, so I'm going to use that. There you can see there's JFK. That's a little thing I sometimes do with a class if I'm starting to do a particular topic, which I'll mention in a minute. But would anyone like to guess how many how many kilometers it is between John F. K. Airport, JFK Airport in New York, to London Heathrow? Anyone want to put something in the chat box about that? Just have a guess. Doesn't matter if you're right or wrong. Any guesses? Right. Well, you can measure it exactly. I'm going to go to that middle button here. And I'm going to go right down to JFK. We're going to do this very accurately. And I'm going to start drawing a line all the way across the Atlantic. Across here to London Heathrow. There's London Heathrow. So I plonk that right in the middle and I double click. You can see the answer is 5555 kilometers, which is quite easy to remember if you think about it. the way I use that is to say to the students, okay, supposing your parents won the lottery and they could take you for a free flight to New York,
Yes.
how far would it be? But how far would it be in a year's time? Because obviously we can use this to consider the fact that the tectonic plates are moving apart. So every year that goes by, the distance between London and New York does increase just a little bit. So we can do that in kilometers. We should be able to do it in meters. So you can see there how that distance over a period of time is going to increase due to the shifting of the tectonic plates. That's a little way of using the measurement tool. So well done if you got anywhere near that. I'll just put the marker on there so you can see London Heathrow. Right. So they're the measurement tools. Then I'm going to add a layer. I'm not going to particularly show you how to find a layer at the moment, but I'm going to add a layer to show you what sort of data you've got available to you here. I've got lots of things in my content that I've saved, but what you really want to do if you're starting off with all the students is direct people to Arcgis Online, where you've got a load of content that people have shared and that Ezra put on there. You can search for things. So I'm going to search here for volcanoes. And what we find there is a layer, world volcanoes. You can explore. So there's a bit of a microphone on there.
Yeah, sorry. Could you just get you all to check that your microphones are muted at the moment, please?
Thank you. Okay, so if you click on these layers, it gives you some what are called item details. You can add that to the map there, but it's a lot quicker to just press this little plus sign, and it will load on volcanoes around the world. So you can see that they've appeared just there. If you then go back to the details panel, you can see this layer has appeared, world volcanoes, and then you can do various interesting things with that. So I'm just going to switch off those layers. You can toggle the layers on and off like this, and I could do that one as well, but I'm going to put it back on again. And what we want to do is to perhaps show these slightly more meaningfully. If we go to change style, what we can then do is show location only, and everything will turn to black dots. Oh, white dots. It's white dots because I'm on a dark background. So white dots. And then you can click options just here and change the symbol. So I'm going to click symbols here. And in this drop down, you have all kinds of different symbols you can use. So I'm going to use one. I'll just go over that again. So I go to shape, drop down, disasters. If you scroll down here, there are a couple of volcano symbols. One is white and one is blue. And I'm going to click the white one because it will stand out better against this map. I'm also going to make it a little bit bigger than it might be. The default's 8 pixels. So I'm going to choose perhaps 14. And you can see all over the world, we've got volcanoes have emerged. And if I click details, you can see there's the layer. Just oops, what I didn't do, I made a very basic mistake there, which is I didn't save my work. So just do that again. Down to the volcanoes, make it a little bit bigger. Click OK, and I didn't click this. OK, and done. That saves my work. So now I've got the volcanoes all over the world. I can add other layers to this. I could add, for example, tectonic plates. So if I put tectonic plates, and you could add this layer here. And I could also add this layer, which has the names of them. And you can then the students can then see the link between these. Oops, it doesn't seem to want to load that one. I'll try it again. I'm not in the place I'm used to working at the moment, but it's you can see the idea. That layer there is actually a good layer to add if you can, because it shows the labels of the plates. So we've got there these two layers we've just added: tectonic plate boundaries, world volcanoes. If you click any of these symbols, it will have what's called a pop-up. You can configure these to perhaps only show one thing, but what you can see at the moment is all a bit of a jumble. So there are ways of simplifying the information. If I go back to this world volcanoes and float over the layer to reveal these icons beneath, I'm going to just change the style. And this time I'm going to select what's called a heat map. If I do it this way, you can see it shows the information in a different way. So I'm just going to switch the boundary layer off, and you can see you've got these, if you like, I don't want to use the word hotspots because that's misleading, but you've got these areas where you do have a greater concentration of volcanoes than in other places. So if I go back to the way I was before, just going to put those on as volcanoes again. What you can also do with this, because you've ended up with quite a clutter of points, there's another facility in the layer. If you go along to this icon here, this little blue icon called cluster points, it will consolidate this clutter of points like this. And you can see it showing you that in that area there, you're looking at 89 volcanoes, 170 there, and so on. Now that may not be fine-grained enough for you cluster-wise, so you can always make it a little bit more fine-grained by moving that to show the pattern. And it just gives a better sort of visual impression of where most of the volcanoes are. So that's an option you can use for all kinds of data, clustering. And you can toggle that on and off. So I'm going to go back to what I was doing there before. And one final thing to show you here is that if you float over the layer, you've got another thing called the filter tool. So if I filter that, I can then suggest to the computer or to Arcgis Online, I only want to look at certain volcanoes. So let's say I want to look at the volcanoes above 2,000 meters. I put 2,000 in there. I know it's going to be looking at elevation. This is one of the bits of data that's buried in this layer, elevation. Then in this one here, this is the magic middle dialog box, I can change what's called the expression to choose something. So I'm going to choose elevations that are greater than 2,000. If I do that and apply the filter, it will pick out the volcanoes that are higher than others. If I want to edit that to have still higher volcanoes, let's maybe say 3,000 or 4,000, it edits them again. And you've got the really big guys there, you know, the Kilimanjaros of this world, world-class mountains as well as volcanoes. So I've run through those very, very quickly. If I was doing that with a class, I would do it much more slowly and deliberately. So I do appreciate that that may have been quite a lot to take in, but hopefully that's a quick, helpful run through. Is that okay, Alistair?
Yeah, that's absolutely spot on, Brendan. Thanks.
Right, so I'll stop sharing my screen, yeah?
Yep, perfect. Okay, folks. Now, a couple of things just to say off the back of what Brendan has just shared. For those of you who feel that getting access to computer rooms is difficult at the best of times, never mind these times when we go back into the situation of COVID and how we're even going to share things like that. What Brendan has just illustrated very well is how you can use ArcGIS as a tool to teach from the front. I would say now that that's become very much a standard part of my practice. Anytime that I'm looking at a map, I just find it very frustrating if it is a map that somebody else has produced that's a static map that I can't add anything else to. Because even whenever I'm planning and I've put together a map that we're using as a resource in class, it could well be as part of the discussion that somebody raises an issue about a factor that isn't shown on the map. If this is just something I've downloaded from the internet and it's a static map on the screen, it is what it is. If it's a GIS map and somebody says, well, would population density be relevant there? Well, no problem. We'll go on, as Brendan has just shown. You can search for layers, you can add that on, and you can explore that. So even if at this stage you're thinking, right, well, I'm not quite at the stage yet where I'll be able to use this with my students, it might be not, for practical reasons, get access to the computer suite. I would still encourage you to think about how you might use that as a teach from the front tool. Now, I want to just let you have a little bit of a preview of this. For those of you who have joined us from outside of Northern Ireland, this is unashamedly geared towards those of us from God's own part of the British Isles. And it's showcasing some of the beautiful locations that we've got here as well. But I'm putting this together as basically a set of resources for GCSE and A-level tied into the CCEA curriculum. And I'm working on it, and it will be launched sometime this autumn term. You'll get a chance to look at it. But as I'm working on this at the moment, I'm suggesting these two main routes into learning GIS, and I've outlined them to you just before Brendan shared. You can learn separately from the tasks, and that's really what Brendan has gone over to show you some of those threshold concepts of the key things that you need to do. But what I also said was that my students pick this up just simply by doing it, and they pick it up really, really quickly. So what I want to do now is to give you a few ideas about, let's say you are thinking about introducing this to your own students. Now we're thinking about the pedagogy of this for a moment. What are a few guiding principles? I'm going to take you through these guiding principles. There are only actually two of them. I'm going to show you a little bit of an analogy, and then we're going to get you a chance to play around with the GIS yourself. So what are those guiding principles? Well, I think whenever you're doing anything new like this, that's some kind of procedural task like Brendan has just done, as he said himself, whenever he does this with his classes, he would let them have a go at it. And you're about to have a go at it at the moment using some of the similar layers that he has just introduced to you. And what I've found is this is whenever I'm designing a task for my classes to use, if I can find something that has an element of repetition in it, it works extremely well. Because what I can do is guide them through bit by bit and show click this, select that. There is one place that you've done it, so I model that for them. You go off and do that across a range of different places where they're doing the same kind of procedure, but they're doing it in different locations, and GIS maps really lend themselves to that. And you're going to get a chance to have a look at that in a moment, because that's exactly what you're going to be doing. The other thing that I put down there is the use of VAR. It was a little lockdown idea that I had because I was bold or mad enough, I don't know what you would call it, to use GIS with my students during lockdown. And whenever we just got some mountain bikers coming past, I told you might have some of them. They were working on this on their own. And basically what I was doing to try and support them was I set up this video that I called VAR, Video Assistant Resource. So if they got stuck because I wasn't there to answer the question in class, they could just click on this little link and it would take them through me showing them how to do the little bit that they needed. And I said to them, look, I would prefer that you had a go at the exercise and use VAR if you're stuck or to check your answer. And when I got them to fill in a wee survey afterwards, most of them used it that way. So I think actually moving forward is quite a useful little tool. If I have time, I think I might try and build this in to the class-based exercises that we're doing with the students as well. Okay, so a couple of examples for you to look at, but just before we jump into that, I want to take you back to our survey. Now, Brendan's already very kindly shown us some of these, so I will show you how I'm going to bring this content in here. I'm going to add and search for layers, and this is my content this time, and this is the most recent one. This is the survey that you guys just filled in. If I click on that, and it'll add it to the map for me. Boom, there we go. Now, I am just going to do a little bit of what Brendan did here. We're going to select, what are we going to select? We're going to select the temperature, because you poor folks in England have been sweltered away. Let's just do this. And there we go. We have, now a couple of people in Isle of Man. I think that we don't have anybody from the Isle of Man here. The map defaulted to that location, so if you didn't click to choose it, that's where it's going to have put you. But you can see where we are. You can see the spread of us around the UK and around the British Isles. We can see there's a whole bunch of people from joining us from England as well. And we can see the usual kind of issue here. We're not quite as warm in wee Northern Ireland as we are in England. Now, I had somebody, that special guest, lined up, and he has been here all this time and he's just disappeared. So let me just see if I can attract his attention. Jeff! no, he's obviously going and having a word with those mountain bikers. Such are the challenges of outside broadcast. Right, when he comes back, I'll introduce him and I'll get him to talk a little bit about this. Okay, so I'm going to come back into this, the examples for you to try. In a moment, I'm going to get you to open this map and give you a few tasks and things for you to do. Right, but first of all, I want to show you this as a little bit of an example. This is exactly what I did with my class whenever I was introducing this to them. Right, I want you to have a guess at what you're looking at here. This is a distribution of sorts. I wonder, can you have a guess at what this distribution is? Tell you what, I'll give you a clue. Here comes a layer that I'm going to turn on that's going to help you to make sense of this distribution. Right, any ideas? Anybody want to tap something there in the chat? Let's see if I can see the chat at the moment. Okay, let me give you another layer. Now, what we're looking at here is obviously a cluster of football fans, and that shape in the middle is the football stadium where they were at, and those little other clusters are the not very socially distanced pubs at the moment where they're gathering to watch the football there. Now, what this basically did when I introduced this to pupils was to introduce the notion of, right, well, you can look at a distribution of something across an area, and you might think and sense that there's some kind of pattern there, but you may not know what it is that's causing that pattern. And if you have more information that you add to your map, if you can turn on more layers, then that kind of thing can help you to discern what those patterns are. Which brings us in to this map here, which is the map, very similar to what Brendan showed with us. This is a map that has the different types of world volcanoes and the different types of plate boundaries. Now, what I can do with this when I turn it on is have the plate boundaries turned off. So this is kind of like that first slide I showed you with the dots. So I use this with the year 11s. Here is a map of the volcanoes. Can you describe the distribution? Now, it's a very interesting little exercise to get them to look at a whole variety of different things. So they can look down here at the west coast of North and South America. You can introduce the concept of a linear pattern to them. Any other linear patterns? Well, there's one here, Southeast Asia. There's a linear pattern in Eastern Africa. But this isn't the only linear pattern. There are other places as well that these are occurring. So this is where you can then turn on another layer, and I get them to turn on the layer of the plate boundaries, and they're able then to relate this to the different types of plate boundaries. But one of the things that you can then do is to take a look at different types of volcanoes, because as Brendan showed you, you can use a filter here with this. Sorry, I clicked the wrong thing there. Midgey's going to my eyes. You can click the filter on here, and I've applied a filter already. So I'm just going to show you what that is. Those drop-down menus that he showed, Brendan showed us. So I can choose the simple type, and I can choose the different types of volcanoes. So there's composite, apply filter, and there's the composite volcanoes will appear. And what you can do then is get the students to take a look at the relationship between where those composite volcanoes are found and the type of plate margin. That's a very classic thing that we want to do as geographers, is pattern spotting. So they can go and have a look here that the plate boundary, or they're mostly found along these plate boundaries called convergent. The destructive plate boundaries was we would refer to them here. Right, now, what I can then do is to get them to explore a couple of those plate boundaries. Now, this is where I'm going to show you, I'm going to model this for you, and I'm going to let you have a wee go and play around with this for a bit. You can add on to your map bookmark places, because if you want to take the students to particular locations in the map, you can do it through the search bar, as Brendan showed, but you can also add these bookmarks, which I find is a very, very good way of navigating around. This is Mount Rainier in North America, in Washington State. My brother and sister-in-law and family immigrated out there and are living within visual sight of that volcano right now. So what we can do is get them to collect some information and have a go at testing out, you know, when we're looking at composite versus shield volcanoes, of course, we'll say the composite volcanoes tend to be, in terms of their proportion, much more triangular in shape. They are more steep-sided and higher, whereas the shield volcanoes, as the name suggests, always talk about Captain America's shield, that very low curved shape. So there is a particular topography to these mountains that are formed by volcanoes that they should be able to measure. Now, how can we do this? You can set up a little spreadsheet for them to collect some of this data, and they can go in, and there's the point. You can just about see it, is the point with all of that data that's in there, and you can see the height of it, elevation, is 4,392, and then you can use the measure tool to measure the diameter of it. Double click. Oh, sorry, that's the on the wrong one there. That's the area tool. The measure tool from there to there. Double click, and it's 14.8 kilometers approximately across. And you can collect that data and get the sense of the breadth of it versus the height of it. Now, you've done that once. That's the modeling of it. Then they can practice it. And this is what I'm going to get you to do in a moment. I'm going to get you to go and search for Mount St. Helens. So let me give you the link back to this. So that is what you need to type into your search bar. And what I would like you to do, and we'll see if we can pop this into the contents here. You can do Mount St. Helens or any one of the Cascades volcanoes. You'll see a bunch of them there. So if you want to be a little bit more adventurous, just go to that part of Washington State, go and choose any volcano other than Mount Rainier and get the height, get the diameter, and pop that into the chat function. So I'm going to give you a few minutes to do that now. My mic is on. If you want to unmute your mic, if you get stuck or want to ask any questions, that's no problem. Go for it, or you can pop it into the chat. So I'm just keeping an eye on the chat here, folks, to see who's going to be first. Oh yes, the huddling of the United fans in the stadium is a great model of the geography of fear, says Kat, yes. You're absolutely right. Oh, Patricia, I've just seen yours, something around Loch Ness. That's a great Northern Irish answer. Great Northern Irish answer. The folks from England will probably not have a clue what you're talking about, but I love that. Plenty of Mount St. Helens at the moment, so let's see who's going to be more adventurous and find one of the other Cascades volcanoes. There's Brendan's bringing Mount Hood, Mount Adams from Cat, very good. Oh, 5.555 kilometers. Is that a fix, Brendan? Very good. That's excellent, folks. Now, what you're doing at the moment is exactly the principle that I said to you. If you're using this for the first time with your students, to find something that is replicable. So you model how to do it with them once, and then they go and investigate for themselves. And what I found is, I've used this with my own students, is that they really love to investigate this. They love to go and find volcanoes. So if you say to them, like, right, Mount St. Helens, everybody go and find that. Right, okay, now I want you to go and find another one nearby. And many of the students love that challenge of being the first one to find the other volcano. But it really does just embrace some of those very simple pedagogical principles of instruct, model, practice. Instruct, model, practice. Excellent. Right. Okay. So let me show you what we're going to be doing next. I'm going to go back onto the map because, of course, what we've been talking about here is the fact that we've been looking at composite volcanoes. We can also take a look at shield volcanoes. And now our hypothesis would be that shield volcanoes aren't necessarily lower, but they're certainly a lot less steep. They may still be as high, but if they are less steep, the diameter must be much, much bigger. Now, where in the world could we possibly go? Well, there you can see it in the bookmark places. Click on that. Now, it may well be that you want the students to get a bit of a sense of where they are in the world, that they don't really know where you've moved from and moved to. That's very simple. Once they've gone in there, you can just click on these minus buttons here to zoom out. You can zoom out as far as you like, and then you can see that you're in Hawaii in the middle of the ocean. Now, there's lots of interesting things you can look at here, because what you will notice if you zoom out like this is that you're not beside a plate margin anymore, are you? So there's a very interesting way to introduce to them the whole notion of hotspots as well. But let's go back into the bookmark. And what I'm going to do is just get you to do very similar exercise. There is the crater, so these are getting worse. Okay, now let's click on the last one. And what I'd like you to do, you might need to zoom out just a wee bit more than that again. Now, this is a really interesting one for them here now. We need to get the height. Now, to get the height, what you'll need to do is to change the filter. So this gives you a chance to practice that. Remember, for changing the filter, we go to this layer, and the filter button is that one. And we're going to edit the filter, and the simple type this time is going to be shield. Now, I'm going to leave that on the screen for you to copy. Now, earlier in the task, I would have got the students to turn this off and on. So they're picking up the methodology of using this by osmosis, really, as they conduct the task. So if you change that to shield volcano, that will bring the little image up for you to get the height and the diameter of it as well. And there's an interesting thing that you can get them to do then, looking at the aerial image of this volcano of Mauna Loa, and just to try and figure out how big and how extensive the lava flow would be. What is the real diameter of this volcano? So when you've changed that over, you just apply filter, click on there, and there you've got the elevation. Good man, look, you're in there, top of the class. Now, Amy, former pupil of Lurgan College, former pupil of mine, Amy, come on, don't let me down here. Do Lurgan College proud. Get in there with an answer for me.
No pressure.
No pressure. So there's an interesting conversation. Oh, no pressure, says Amy. Yeah. So you can discuss with them, and you can see how you could move this around. This could be a teach from the front tool if it has to be, and you're getting a bit of a sense there of what that distance would be. So you're looking at something of 60 or 70 kilometers, depending on where you want to go to the edge of that lava flow, which is much, much wider than any of the composite volcanoes that we were looking at in the Cascades region. So you can see from that, folks, how what we were able to do with that exercise is move way beyond what, Amy, you would have done in my class all those years ago, when I would have given you a static map where you have a map of the plate boundaries, a map of the earthquakes and volcanoes, and I just simply would have said, describe the relationship. Yeah, it's fine. Yeah, it's fine. Most volcanoes are found on or near plate boundaries, but not all of them. But look at how much more powerful geography is unleashed by this. Look at how the students have been able to get in and really explore place through something like this. And I mean explore. They're not just passively sitting, listening to us as we talk. They're actively engaging, supported. And I think especially if you look at this modeling, then practice approach, they're supported as they do this. But they are able then to have a degree of ownership. Now, what I generally tend to do as I'm looking at exercises like this is to have maybe a little bit more of an extension task towards the end. And what I've got here, you can see this layer. If I come back out again to the overview, turn on the layer of world eruptions 2015 or 2000 to 2015. And what I'm able to do then is to give a task at the end and ask the students, there they are marked on, to go and find out a little bit about some of those eruptions. And we'll have covered VEI with them, and they can go and have a look at where some of the big eruptions are. So there's an opportunity for students who move through faster to go ahead and do something like that. You don't always have to do that, but that can be in there for them. Right, look, that's a really good question. Are there layers that you've used available in Arcgis? Yeah, Brendan and I discussed possibly showing you this, but seeing as you've asked, we'll definitely show you how you go about doing that. So if you want to add any layers onto the map here, so there's the content Sorry, the midges are absolutely circling me with a vengeance at the moment. Oh, right. No, I'm not signed in for that. I was wondering why that wouldn't show me that. Let me see if I can show you it here. Yeah, I'll just show it here because I'm signed in. If I go to add and search for layers, now, just like Brendan, I have a lot of content in my own content, but the two locations that you will go to first were these. These are layers that are supplied by the organization Arcgis Online. You'll get a whole bunch in there. Living Atlas is, as the name suggests, it's an atlas, but it's curated by Esri, the company that provides this software. And because it's curated, then you can be confident to a very large degree on the accuracy and the validity of the data. But either one of those will do fine. So if you want to go in there and just as Brendan did before, search for volcanoes. There you go. And it really is as side as that. What's this from Kat? Midgie side note, Alistair, Avon skin so soft is an amazing repellent. If you don't mind ordering from the Avon lady right now, Kat, I would take anything. Oh, there we go. My special guest who is now returned, you're going to get to see him in a moment. Oh, yes. Oh, wouldn't you go look what it is? It is absolutely the Avon, so I'll spray that on in a wee moment. So, look, I hope that answers your question. Folks, we're nearly through. Brendan has put together something else for us, but he pre-recorded it. So seeing as we're nearly up to the hour, we'll draw things to close here in just a moment, and I'll make that available to you afterwards, and you can have a look at that. We were keen to show you one or two different examples of this so that you can get a bit of a sense of it. But what I'm hoping with this, folks, is that you've realized with this that number one, the threshold concepts for using ArcGIS are reasonably limited, and number two, they're reasonably achievable. I've certainly found that if you follow that approach with the students of modeling it and getting them to repeat, very, very quickly the technology gets out of the way and actually you get into powerful geography with that, and really is very, very straightforward. Now, if you're wanting to look at some other ideas of how I'm actually using that, some of the other videos, you'll get those on my YouTube channel, some of you might have seen those before, and that website I will be sharing in due course. But hopefully that's enough to give you a little bit of a taster. You now have that map. So if you're up for a little bit of a challenge, if you want to plan ahead, you've got some ideas of how to use it, but those are just some ideas. Why don't you just set yourself this challenge of, right, that's going to be the first thing that you'll do. Whenever this topic comes up in class with you, you will use this GIS either to get the students to do it or to model it from the front and to demo some of the things that they've been doing. Okay, but the last thing that we need to do here, if I need to go back to this, because I want to do temperature, and with temperature with you, and just cancel that a wee second. Okay, so what is the temperature like with you? There we go. Now, why am I sitting outside very uncomfortably being attacked by midges? Well, in a moment I'll show you my special guest, but we're at a particular location here, and this location is County Tyrone, and we're here. I'll just show you a little bit of this because we've got a microphone in the TV camera in the background, which might give you a little bit of a clue who the special guest is, because tonight and tomorrow night is very special, not for geography teachers necessarily, but for people like me who are also very keen amateur astronomers. So we're at the Dark Skies Reserve, brand new place. It hasn't even opened. I'm sitting outside. We aren't able to get in, but I've got their Wi-Fi code, and we're bouncing off that in order to make this happen, because we're going to be shooting some video tonight that hopefully will be showcasing what it's like to be a meteor hunter. Now, whenever I first started an hour ago, I put down 7 octaves of cloud. We're now significantly reduced. But I don't know what I'm really talking about here or why I'm saying this, because I've got a really very special guest here. So why rely on a mere geography teacher to give you a weather forecast? Ladies and gentlemen, when I can introduce you to my special guest and good friend, BBC TV's Jeff Maskell.
Hello, good evening. Welcome to you all. Welcome to Om. Apparently, that is the sound of the universe. This is a brand new centre. And for those of you who are based in glorious Northern Ireland, you are going to want to bring school trips and what have you here, because it is going to be brilliant. They've got so much that they are hoping to do once they open the doors here in October. It's I can't believe they've let us in, frankly.
That's very good.
And hopefully we're going to have the chance of seeing some Perseid meteors tonight. Very pleasant here. For those of you in England, still 31 degrees there tonight. For us, a much more temperate 19, 20 Celsius. We've got those clearing skies from the west. So hopefully we've got fingers crossed for some good watching later on tonight. And wherever you are, I hope it's a little more comfortable.
Well, what about that? You can't ask for anything more than that. The GIS session and Northern Ireland, BBC TV's very own Jeff Maskell to give us our wee weather forecast at the end. Well, folks, that's pretty much us. Just to wrap this up, just remains for me to say a huge thanks to Brendan, and I will share, probably the easiest way is to do that via Twitter, and I'll stick it on the chat here just before we wrap up. Or no, actually, I'll just share it by Twitter because it might need to do one or two things just to get that shared. It'll take you through another thing. So a massive thank you to Brendan, not only for your help tonight, Brendan, but for all your help over the last 12, 18 months and just really helping me to go through this process of learning. And folks, what you'll find is, especially those of you that are on Twitter, there's a whole bunch of GIS enthusiasts like us out there who are more than happy to help you out. So please feel free, if you're dabbling with this, just to reach out, get some support, get some help. We'd be more than happy to do so. So thank you very much for your time tonight. And you can reach me at LC Geography. Brendan is at MildThing on Twitter. Any questions, give us a shout. Right now, though, I'm going to go and put on some of that Avon lady stuff because these midges are doing my loafing, and I'm going to go searching in these beautiful clearing skies for some Perseid meters. Thank you very much, folks. All the very best.
Thank you, Alistair.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks very much.